Welcome to Non-Judgmental, brought to you by Being Seen and the Prime State.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast Non-Judgmental, sponsored by Being Seen and the Prime State. Today, I have with me Joe joining us, and the roles have switched a bit. I want Joe, welcome to the podcast, and I would like that you introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, Ankkush. Thanks for having me on the podcast. It's a privilege and honor to be on this platform. So, to start off with, my name is Josephine, and I'm a counseling psychologist. So, I'm basically a CBT practitioner, certified CBT practitioner, and a certified postpartum depression therapist. And also, I'm on the way to complete my transaction analysis therapy. So this is about me, and I have hands-on experience handling clients related to relationship issues, prenatal and postnatal, and also family therapy I do. So my area of expertise is this.
That's wonderful. That's impressive. To the audience behind the camera, before we started recording this, we were talking about, examples of the baggage that or the trauma that happens or something that happens in the childhood, how it actually gets affected in the adulthood and how does it, we carry so much of baggage of emotions and, the fear and how it affects our relationships or career or our day to day life. Can you give an example if you have anything? Like, because I do have my own example, but before I start my own example, I would like you to give an example if you have, because people, I believe, even I never believed until and unless I knew this thing, that anything that has happened in the childhood will actually, actually does affect in the near future.
All right.
Only late when I realized it.
Yeah, it will take time to realize as we evolve and as we grow. It takes time. We just have to be patient with it. Not come to a conclusion. Be patient with it. So the first thing that we have to look out for is that do we have any recurring pattern of behavior? Like, how we have reacted in the past. Is it been repeating the same way for the same scenarios? For example, reacting to failures and rejections. Like, if are we being too clingy to someone? Because people tend to be too clingy only because of insecurities, the fear of losing the opposite person of the gender. All right. Are we behaving the clingy nature? Is the clingy nature is a repetitive pattern with everyone for that matter? That's first case. Second is we are reacting to rejections and fail, right? Because people who are actually, especially individuals who have had, childhood trauma tend to get very clingy, very emotionally disturbed or weak, and also they expect a lot of validation and approval. So they have to get it's like a mandatory rule that they have to get. But on the other side, it is actually not necessary at all. Come to that extent, you need to recognize, are we actually still dealing with a childhood trauma? Have we passed across that? Have we processed it? Some people think that no, I'm over it. I'm just they're not just thinking about it. I'm over it. But actually, when you listen to your thought process, give attention to your thought process, give attention to how you behave people around to people around you. Just one universal thing that I actually recommend to look out for is that our behaviors, our actions, and our words, as long as doesn't affect the people around us, we are good. We are good meaning we are harmless. All right. The moment it's affecting all the aspects of your life, meaning our words affect, if our words affect our actions, our behaviors, is being, having a huge impact, especially with a close circle, then we have to look into it. Look into the underlying factors. What could be the reason? It is not necessary. It should always be childhood. Maybe, during the teenage could be also an issue. Fear of being rejected, bullying, all these evolve around the, childhood trauma as well, trauma in general as well. So this is something that I would recommend people to look into. So what is my behavior being a repetitive pattern? First, am I reacting in the same way as I was reacting in my childhood or adult.
Right. And when you said no, look into the repetitive patterns, my head stuck to my own behavioral pattern that I believe. I mean, is it somewhere related that I get angry if people don't tend to understand what I say at once or maybe at twice? Or maybe if I need to, explain something, if they say something that, like anything, if they point out not my mistakes, but if there is something that just triggers me when they're trying to explain it to me, and when in return I try to explain it to them, my goes a little above than
Yeah.
what it is usual. So I'm not sure if that is actually related to behavioral patterns. I mean, I'm not sure about that. But coming back to sticking to the topic that we were talking about, I want to give my own example. For a really, really long time, I was bullied. A really long time. It did not stop maybe 1 year or 2 year down the line. It was really for a good 6, 7 years, irrespective of the complaints and, taking those actions. It made no sense. Eventually, I ended up changing my school. I
Oh,
changed my school twice,
all
and
right.
it happened at both the schools because people had different way of maybe they thought something else. I'm not sure what was in their head, but yes, that happened twice, and I eventually ended up shifting my schools because the only way I could face them, because once the complaint was raised, the actions were not as strict as now what they are today.
Exactly.
The actions were not that strict. So eventually I was ended up being again with the same people there. And I always have left till at least till my ninth grade. I have lived alone, I would say. I barely had any friends. It's not, but I never had any friends that I can carry. But before that, maybe on second, third, fourth, I was not that mature enough to understand.
Definitely.
I am socially, with them. Only with a very few, hardly maybe one or two, I might speak to them. So that bullying thing, whatever happened in the past, I never liked if somebody ever bullied someone, or I never liked making fun of somebody to an extent that hurts them. I always have stopped myself or guarded myself ki I will never do that. Maybe because I understood very later in my life that it is because I have been into position. I don't want anybody else to be in the same position in what I was put in. That is my example that I had. How this childhood, whatever happens in your childhood, trauma or maybe bullying, that affects in later stages of your life. I realized it pretty late.
Everything strikes late. As long as it strikes at what matters. So if the I would recommend you to see the bigger picture there. The brighten bigger picture is there is that. So then someone out there would might need some help, right? And like an angel, you will appear as an angel to them, because of your past experience. There is somewhere out there who's ready to help the person who's being bullied. So I would see the bigger picture over there. It is exactly that it is. So that's very appreciative about you, because not everyone will take the guts to go stand for someone else. Because again, will I be will I be being bullied again? Another factor will run in their head, which is very common and natural. But it takes a lot of effort. I know effort and guts to break that and stand for someone else. And
Right.
yes, definitely that is a huge bullying as such as is a huge impact is created, especially for people who are entering college, the early adulthood phase. See,
Right.
in school it is bullying, in college is ragging. Now, though, since the mental health has been talk of the town everywhere, it's been blooming very well. And back then, there was no school student counselors. There was no mental health topics in school. There was only sex education, very little sex education also. When I studied back in 2005 or 6, only then sex education came into the MED. Back then also it was little weird for, of course, it's little weird for everyone at that point of age, right?
Right.
And we never had any concept like, stop bullying or something against, to educate, at least to educate the children about what causes bullying and how it has been having impact. So the mental health topic as such was not predominant back then. Now, though, even though we have such topics in school, sessions in school, we have student counselors, still there are kids who actually face them. But at least the intensity of weightage has reduced a little bit.
Right.
One good thing. But this is out for someone who has faced, bullying in their past. It's good that they have actually recognized it, acknowledged it. You know, okay, I've been bullied for some good, bad reason. I've been bullied, right? So the important thing is that they should process it. They should not, keep, pushing it behind their head. Okay.
Um,
So you took a very good effort to process it, I would say. Though it created an impact, a black mark, or little, darkness during your childhood, it's supposed to be a very good phase of a life. Yet there are good things as well, right? At very young age, you learned about how people are and who people are. You know, that is helping you right now.
yeah.
It's okay. See, at every negative part and at every negative side aspect of our life, we should always look into what is the brighter picture there? Has been bullied, in the childhood. Like, for example, I was also bullied for the skin color and for the language, everything. All right. And, I was being bullied and you were being bullied, right? Okay. What can be done right now? These all happened in our past. The one good thing that you did it, you processed it, right? You processed it and you addressed it and accepted the fact, okay, I was being bullied. And finally, you didn't push it behind your head. That is the most important factor.
Mhm.
You behind your head. You addressed it by opening up about yourself. Not everyone will do it. It will take
Right.
a more guts to talk about it. Okay. And you processed it, you didn't push it behind your head, you are able to, stand up for someone else as well. So always look out for the brighter picture and the bigger picture. Whatever negative happened in the past, be it childhood, be it teenage, be it in the present, however it is. Since we're talking about childhood trauma, so what is the bigger picture that I can take it from there? If I have not processed it, okay, let me take time to process it. No harm at all. Because the more you process, the more you're able to move on. The more you will be able to come out of it with a little bit of ease. Otherwise, it is going to affect you till your last, I would say.
Yeah.
Because we have very strong memory, especially more than what's happening right now, more than what has happened yesterday. We have very strong memory about what things happened in our childhood.
Right.
Because back then was, according to science, it is more sharper at that point of time, right? So sadly, like, like maybe a decade before, like we didn't have much, education about mental health or bullying. Now that it has come, I think we should make wise use of it. At
Right.
least back when we were being adults, when we didn't get to know about how it affects, how can we come out of it? I think it's still not late to still get educated about ourselves, how we can come out of it.
Right. And also, it is not just about bullying that happens in childhood.
Yes.
There are so many different pictures that come into mind. When you mentioned about counseling, because back then school never had, but in one of the schools that I was studying in had
Mm.
a counselor,
All
and
right.
she was way too beautiful. And I used to love going to her chamber and talk to her
Yes.
because when you mentioned about that, it took me back to that same school and everything was so, picturesque. Everything just came into my mind. And I still remember there was a time when somebody in that school was tearing the books of students, like maybe the notebooks.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why was that happening and for what, but eventually somehow just because I used to roam a lot
Mm-hmm.
from my classroom back to the room, coming back again. So I was blamed for it for no reason. I still
Okay.
clearly remember that. I was blamed, and that is when I was sent to counseling. And very, very, very late, I realized that, oh, they realized that there is something wrong with me, like, so that is why I was being sent to counseling sessions. Because
Mm-hmm.
even when I realized, and even when, things were normalized as, mental health is still a taboo in majority of our part of country. I normalize it, and to understand what actually it is, it was way too late for me to realize that, okay, this is why I was blamed for. And I didn't mind that, because anyhow, uski wajah se I had to, I was given a chance to go back home so that I
Yep.
feel good. So maybe I just accepted it like, okay, fine, no problem. Anytime, whosoever has done it, I don't know. I did even clarify when I was called into the chambers and asked about, like, are you the one who did it? I did clarify a lot of times that I am
Mhm.
not the one, but still I was blamed for it. But eventually I took it in a very different way, thinking that, oh, anyhow, I'm gonna get to go back home. So
Mm.
I have taken it that way. And maybe that is why now when somebody tries to blame me. This is
Mhm.
honestly happening. Everything that we're discussing is just taking me back. And now I'm realizing, okay, why I am, why it makes me aggressive when somebody tries to blame me for something that I'm not done. Or if they don't understand whatever I'm saying,
Mm.
I get angry very easily. This is what I just connected the dots, that just because that, they had done it to me when they didn't
Mm.
understand, they didn't believe me.
Mhm.
And that and that is one of the major things that happened that I can never forget. You know,
Definitely.
eventually I have got this habit that, okay, what has happened has happened. I cannot change what has happened, but I need to learn my lessons from that and move ahead.
Exactly.
I just connected the dots that, why I get so angry when somebody tries to blame me for something I've not done. Even like people don't tend to get that aggressive when they're blamed for something they've not done. But for me, it's on a very different level.
Yeah, because see, back then we not everyone would be mature enough to always know the fact that we should stand for ourselves. No one will come for us. No one will be a mouthpiece for us. We should stand for ourselves. I'm sure, like it's too early for any child to come to that mature level. We'll only be in the mind state that okay, whatever I say, the person will definitely accept. If not, that person doesn't love me, doesn't adore me, irrespective of whether it's a principal or whether it's a teacher, whether it's our own parent. You know, so we back then we definitely will have that mindset only, right? So that is why after a point of time, how much ever when you were able to explain or how much ever you were able to stand for yourself, even then you were not accepted, you were not validated, your feelings were not validated basically. Because maybe the probabilities would be it was very convenient to blame put the blame on you. Maybe would have
Maybe.
been convenient. Maybe you would have been that very goody goody boy to accept whatever people say. Maybe, people tried, making playing a more safer game. Okay, if it's Ankush, maybe it would be easy for me to, finish the case and move on. So the fault is not on them. It's on us. Us meaning
Right.
Ankush. Okay.
Got it.
So that is the bigger picture over there. I would see is that okay. Back then I was being used as a victim. People were paying a victim card using me. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. However, long it might take. However, time prolongs. I am still going to stand for myself. I'm still going to keep proving my point. I'm not going to be an easy take. People can't play a safe game with me.
That picture is right now. Like, I will never allow somebody to do. But back then, I was in fifth standard when all of this happened. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe after a time, I don't know, for some reason, I have gone back to that memory lane, which I had never forgotten, but I don't feel that, oh, this and this happened to me. There was a time when I used to feel bad, but now I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. I've learned my lessons and I've moved ahead. I still remember one of my hostel warden had, I don't remember for what that was. I would love to mention his name also because I can never forget his face. His name was Lokesh.
Also.
And that person, I don't clearly remember for what reason, but he was talking to me very softly. He asked me to sit on a bed and I'm just sitting. I didn't realize that he had a steel scale because I
Mm-hmm.
still remember I didn't do anything wrong for him to hit me that bad. he took out his scale, the steel scale, and I'm sitting to him, and I was always this calm, shan, who never used to make a lot of trouble. I used to say, okay, no kind of a person. And what he did was he took out his the scale that was he was hiding, and he literally hit me and my back like up, up, up. I say like there was no pause. He didn't take a pause for that. He literally whacked the shit out of me, and I was weeping out a lot. I did cry a lot. I went to bed. Next day, I had a high temperature fever, wherein he was trying to suppress what has happened. That warden didn't want anybody to speak. And that's when I had a friend called Shashank. I mean, there were a lot of people day boarders. So I wrote a letter, I told Shashank, can you please send this to my home? If you can call my parents on this number, and if you could just tell them what has happened, I really want them to come down and pick me up right now. I don't want to finish my exams. I don't want to do anything. I just want to walk out from here. Parents did call the school, and so many things happened. I decided no matter what, I'm going to step out of the school. It's okay if I repeat my fifth standard again, because I didn't have that much of courage to speak out. I didn't have any other way rather than just talking it to my parents. So I was forced to, take a stand for myself, because that's when I realized if I don't convey what has happened, it still remain same.
That will become another repetitive pattern of behavior for that person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a very great move. See, nothing at cost of our mental health, our peace of mind.
But back then we didn't realize it is affecting our mental health. It was just like this is wrong, and whatever has happened should not have happened.
Should
So
not have.
everything that happened in the past has so much to do with what I am today and what kind of I have turned out to be. I would listen to people vent out whatever has happened, because I realized when I needed somebody back then, I never had somebody to listen to. I mean,
It's
I never
always
had somebody who, yeah. So how will somebody, whether, people don't realize whatever has happened as past is the reason for their behavior right now. Majority of them don't understand this. So how do people recognize that, this behavior, or maybe for them to, just understand that this is something related to past? How can they figure it out, and how can they, channelize so that it doesn't affect them as it is affecting, for them to just realize that this is something that is related to past of whatever has happened.
Yes. So, like I said, and I gave you an example, like, being fear of rejection or no fear of failure, right? Let's take first example that I told you, fear of rejection. Both fear of failure, rejection falls in the same category, actually, more or less the same. So, when back then, as child, when people, when a kid used to get low marks or being, not being selected for any kind of sport or always pushed behind for some reason or the other, the kid will always be labeled by the parents as well as by the kids as well as by the so that
Right.
is fear of failure and rejection. I would say rejection more than failure, because the kid hasn't tried anything yet to be either to pass or fail. All right. So for some reason or the other, that XYZ kid has always been pushed behind, has always been rejected for whatever step that he or she has taken. Okay, in the childhood. If that is again repeating in the college, or for example, he's in a placement, he or she is in a placement, interview, constantly is being rejected. But his friends, he or she or his friends has been getting accepted, getting some exception letters, invitation cards, everything. Yet he wrote that this particular XYZ person has always been rejected, is not being placed yet. This will define it, not define, that will actually help him to recognize where that feeling of rejection has rooted from. How did he process it back then? How did he react back? Did he have any suicidal attempts, suicidal thoughts, of any plans of running away from that place, not appearing again, or being very aggressive, being very hard on himself or him or herself? Is that same behavior pattern is repeating even now, even for a very small rejection, maybe a love proposal, being rejected, or maybe a very very small example I would say is an interview, any interview, or
Right.
or not able to get into the team that he or she wants to. So it's the same behavior pattern, like no suicidal thoughts first to actually, the red flag I would say to recognize or to, address suicidal thoughts, the same way of being running away from that place, wearing, always trying to wear a mask, you know, and also being very, very aggressive around the, maybe more than people around them on oneself. How, is she or he being very hard on himself or herself. So this is one example that I can bring up right now, how they can recognize. This is pertaining to fear of rejection or failure. All
Right.
right. And when a person who's always keen on getting, approval, validation for their feelings, no matter what, that becomes a huge problem in adulthood, because right now people are very busy to validate only their feelings. All right. Maybe the parents were, very overprotective, because the overprotectiveness actually destroys the kid in the later part of their life in
Right.
some way or the other, actually, because that particular kid has always been validated, has always been, appreciated, or has always been validated. Okay, this is right, this is wrong. Always the kid has been directed, rather taking his or own directions or decisions. Of course, it's not easy to take our own decisions back then. Yet, there are kids who are back then who are, who are now a more self-made person.
Right.
Right. So now, when they are not getting that particular validation and approval, that becomes a huge trauma now. That is also a childhood trauma, actually, in a way, I would say, because they still expect their partner or their friends to protect them. They still expect their partners and friends to validate their feelings. First, validate mine. That is important for me. Only then I can, live my entire the next part of my life. If not,
Right.
I'm not doing something right. That's why people are not validating me. That's why people are not appreciating. I'm not being validated. That is a very irrational belief, I would say. The
Right.
rational belief that every person should have is that, am I comfortable? Is it making sense to me first? Right? Am I validating my own feeling? Am I appreciating myself? Do I love myself?
Mhm.
So these are the rational beliefs every individual should have in
Right.
order to alter their childhood trauma.
Right. So, do you really think that, all whatever happens in the childhood one has faced affects the behavior learn in their career as well? I've seen a lot of people, maybe they switch or they have a fear of rejection or, fear that everything that they do will not let them achieve what they want. And that's why they don't face the problems. Like, this is a general statement, right? I just want to generalize this that people have that fear of facing their problems and they just take a u-turn and try to take a different road, or maybe they give up on
Mm.
whatever they were working on. And we've seen this a lot even in their working lifestyles, wherein either they have the fear of being rejected, that they wouldn't crack that interview, or they will just even if they know even if they are capable of something better than what they are doing, they would never take that heights, because then there'll be a given to them, and they still believe that they will not be able to manage or handle the amount of responsibilities given to them. Or
Mhm.
also it can be that they think that they are not a good fit. They are, but maybe because of some sort of fear that they have developed, they never want to take that step or never want to be in that position. Is this all sort of behavioral pattern related to something that has happened in the childhood?
Yes, it's again probabilities. Yeah, anything and everything is probability. Okay. But
Right.
since we're talking more about childhood trauma right now, I would say yes, at least 90%. Because see, the fear of rejection comes not just on the, or just, it doesn't just come out of the blue, or randomly it kicks in. No,
Right.
only if there's constant rejections, person gets to the zone of being rejected. Will I be rejected? Should I give it a try? Anyways, I'm going to get rejected. Why should I give it a try and not put myself under the cut a sorry figure in front of someone else? Yes, it does. It does affect a career also.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, why do we actually have exams in school? Not to just test our, not just only to test our knowledge. It is also, are we able to complete the task on? Are we able to channelize our concentration? How attentive we are? You know, are we able to be present, be punctual for the exam?
Right.
See, that also one of the few reasons why we have exams, assessment in school, exams in school. Are we able to comprehend? How's an understanding skill? How was analytical thinking? Are we thinking logically? Okay,
Right.
so this main purpose for having exams in school. So this is the same rule applies in the work culture as well, right?
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah.
aligned to our work nature? Are we able to comprehend the work culture, the nature of the job or the process of the job, whatever, IT or non-IT, whatever it may be. The
Right.
moment when we feel that, oh no, I am not aligned, or I am not able to align myself, I am not able to comprehend, I feel that I'm lagging back. Okay, there's something wrong with me. Let's escape.
Yeah.
Right. So most of us, even you and me, like, maths, for me, maths was a huge fear. I get so worried about the numbers. Still, honestly,
Right.
still, okay. Though my mother tongue is Tamil. Tamil was a huge, bigger, how do I say? It was a very big fear for me because of the spelling mistakes, the pronunciations. I used to fail in Tamil.
Oh.
I do used to fail in Tamil because for some reason I was not able to comprehend. I was not able to match the spelling mistakes. My mother used to tie me to the chair with a belt and teach me. Right, it was that bad. My Tamil was that. So even now, when I prepare for my for my own YouTube videos, even now I stammer on Tamil. Even
Oh.
now I get very panicky when too many numbers I have to calculate. Back then I used to feel so ashamed, like, why am I, everyone is able to learn math some way or the other, some way or the other. When I know my own partner is so superb in Tamil and maths, when I am not, it does put me in, it does take me for a toll. But then luckily I have studied the subject of psychology. I'm able to process it. Okay, so now I've come to terms that, okay, there is something else I'm good at. I'm good at
Right.
communicating, good at time management. I'm good at organizing. See, women generally multitask a lot,
Right.
right? This is something I'm not able to have a take on. Okay, let me either try to work it out or try to minimize it as much as I can. Okay,
Right.
kind of processing thing will take time. So
Mm-hmm.
people try to escape. So when they escape, the exams that they will deliberately fall sick so that they will not attend that particular exam. The same thing will happen in the work culture. They might deliberately fall ill if they have to be present for a presentation, meeting, when they have to facilitate the meeting, or for an interview also. So if the
Right.
part is repetitive, there's something that we have to address, identify and address. First, we have to accept, okay, this is something not my cup of tea. Let me come to terms first.
Yeah.
Okay. There will be ways to work it out. There is nothing impossible. As long as you have a motive and a plan for it, a
Right.
goal and a for it, there will always huge facts. There is ways where we can make it according to our comfort, to our capacity, to our caliber. It is just that we have to accept our flaws,
Right.
come on terms with it, and figure out, have the patience, to figure out and patiently find ways to work it. Okay.
Right.
And always what I tell my clients is that it is always good to have plan, always have plan till Z, not just plan A, B, and C. Nothing like that. Have plans till Z. Try, 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 try. There's a saying, try hard or die trying.
Right.
So trying is the only tool that will actually help us to come to a point whether you either achieve it or either you lose it. But at least you tried.
Right.
So that is one way that how you can process
And when it comes to acceptance,
it.
I believe acceptance of the fact of whatever has happened. I'm not saying it'll just happen with a fraction of second that, oh, I just accepted. It'll never happen that way. You need to process and understand what has happened, and maybe then you might come to a term where you accept things. But it is not like how we accept, okay, I'm accepting a project. So it's like 100% responsibility. But
Yes.
what I believe, acceptance takes a lot of time. And
Yes.
also accepting, you will come to a terms, maybe today of just, you might be just accepting the 5% of what has happened
Mm.
tomorrow. And slowly and steadily with time, when you process and when you try accepting things, you might come up to 100%.
Yes, definitely. See, acceptance is a it's a quality, it's a habitual, it's a behavioral quality.
Right.
Okay, so every habit of us right now, that it didn't come just didn't drop from heaven, from the sky. It all took time for us to get habituated, especially for people, moving cities for work. Not
Yeah.
everyone gets so, adjusted to one place. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of time. Same way, acceptance. Acceptance is a huge quality that everyone should see. Sharing, not every kid or every adult will have. And
True.
sharing is a huge quality that everyone should have. Not everyone will have. Not everyone will have the heart to share how much ever little amount of whatever they have, even now, even as an adult. There's a,
Right.
there's a saying in Tamil, dharmam. Dharma means,
I
like,
got.
meaning, first satisfy yourself. First keep your cup full. Only then
Right.
you can pour. Share. First give the portion of share to yourself and also to others. Right?
Right.
Say acceptance. It will take a lot of time, but it is workable. You should just have to sincerely practice. It's like weight loss program. It's like
And that,
how physical health.
yeah,
It,
and the weight loss is difficult.
exactly. Because our taste buds are very much, it is improvising day by day. The lot of
Yeah.
food trucks coming in, it's very tempting. So it
True.
takes effort to control our taste buds. It's always said, no, to control our hunger. Sorry, to control our hunger is the first quality that every human being should learn.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
And I'm very bad at it.
Same, yeah.
I really cannot control my hunger at all. I need things at the very particular time. Like I have a routine set, maybe 10 is my breakfast, I need at 10.
Yes. That's good.
When it is something important, I can fluctuate 30 minutes upar niche
Yeah,
somewhere, but not beyond that. I can really never do that.
yeah, nothing at cost of, mental health, physical health, and our
Yeah.
taste buds also. Our stomach especially, because
Right.
without having a meal, we cannot compromise anything on that. Otherwise, you'll end up collapsing. You
Right.
rather quench your thirst and then you do carry on with your work. It's a
Right.
good quality.
Do you have any reference or cases that that you found was very, maybe the reason was different or something that's very strange?
The case study, a particular case that, I had, client I could actually recall now. Of course, I cannot disclose the name because of the
Yeah.
confidentiality. So this person who came to me very recently with the concern for anxiety. Okay.
Yeah.
So apparently what happened is that he or she, this person, had a rejection, an unproposed rejection, a matrimony kind of rejection, something related to marriage.
Okay.
So this person was had huge dreams with this particular person that he or she might end up with him or her. But then it didn't happen. Okay, it didn't happen,
Okay.
and the anxiety kicks in again. But this anxiety part, then he or she was thinking that this anxiety just kicked in
Oh,
because of just taken. But when we looked into the childhood, teenage, when we were, visited the memories of when we visited the memory lane of that particular person, it looked like it has the anxiety and anxiousness has always been a
being
repetitive pattern of behavior for that particular person. It
right.
started from the hostel life. Okay, it started
There
from
are, sorry to cut you off. I just want to mention that there are so many people who have bad memories and good memories also, but it again depends upon the kind of hostel that you choose. And only later on, when you realize what is, good and bad, that's when you tend to grow. I'm
Mm.
sure a lot of them would have I'm not
Yes.
saying bad, but yeah, they might have their own set of experiences.
Yeah, everyone, definitely have a fair, fair and shared square of their experience, not just hostel or boarding. And I think everyone who have, been in their school days, there will always be stories, stories, meaning, ups and downs in their life.
But I believe the day boarding part is like you at least end up getting back home. Maybe you
Oh,
have that sort of escape, but sure, it's like 24/7.
yes. Yeah, that is really traumatizing. If you don't get a perfect, not at least perfect, at least someday you should get aligned with your roommates. If not
Yeah,
with a warden, at least with your roommates, with a peer.
right.
If even if that collapses, the whole boarding lines actually goes for a toss.
Fine. I'll get back to this. You
I,
please continue about the
yeah.
case that you were discussing.
So what happened was when we visited the person's, case history, like, medical history as well as the child start from childhood, looked like the person has always been anxious because of the fear of rejection. Okay. So right from friends, right from with the parents. So this one such person has always tried to be in good books with the parents. I should not hurt them. I should not, get a bad name for them. I should say, I should breathe, I should live as per to their wish,
Right.
which is not healthy, right? Which is not at all healthy. But of course, as any child will definitely think that way only. At least 80%. Now, though it's all different, back then it
Yeah.
was like everything should be according to my parents' wish. See, right from it looked like it seemed then, right from the degree, right from the work nature, work culture, work choose, the choice of work, and everything had been according only through parents' wish. So the
Right.
person always been jumpy about the decisions. Jumpy, meaning it has always been the parents' call.
Okay.
Even this rejection that this person faced recently is affecting him or her more only because the parents have been involved, the family has been involved. Okay,
Yeah.
anxiety is on the peak actually because this is the first or second time that he or she has put the parents down.
Okay.
This person has nothing to do with rejection, especially the family has nothing to do with the rejection.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone are entitled to make the choice of whom I should get married to.
Right.
Right. So it is, I would say the fault is on our part of expecting too much of yes from the person.
That's what in the last episode with
Mm.
Doctor that just
Yes.
got released, we were
Yes.
talking about there's so much of baggage that we carry. I mean,
Mhm.
eventually, I believe we are humans at the end of the day, and there would be some sort of, expectations that would come out, but we
Mhm.
should be so mindful of what are we expecting, or, the basic expectations are the time, the love, the affection that, every human needs.
Sick.
Yeah. So beyond that, when we go with a lot of expectations, is when we are throwing our own baggage on the other person. So we need to be a little mindful of the same.
Yes, especially, with the childhood trauma, what most of us, what most of the individual do is they try to replace the mother
Right.
figure, especially if it's the childhood trauma is pertaining to their parents. See, no one can replace mom or dad. That's why we have different roles in our, in our life.
Right.
Different meaning for every relationship. Not a person cannot satisfy, one person cannot satisfy all your needs, all your concerns, or all your, expectations. That's why we have, friend. In friend, we have boyfriend, girlfriend, boy bestie, girl bestie, mom, dad, uncle, aunt, siblings. So
Right.
that's the thing that everyone should understand that whatever baggage that we have in our past, in our childhood, it is only our responsibility to process it. Maybe we can share,
Yeah.
we can get emotional support, but you never ever expect the opposite person to deal with yours.
True.
It is, it's not right. They may be very generous enough, but you need to draw a boundary there, right? It is
Right.
our sole responsibility that we should process it, come to terms, deal with it, process it. maybe you can get emotional support.
Right.
That is all the opposite person can do. Humanly, practically possible. This is one
Right.
thing what I wanted to bring in
Yes.
this podcast, because most of us actually face, or most of us would have faced the particular instinct that I told you, right, bringing
Right.
the baggage of a childhood trauma into the relationship,
Right. Right.
saying saying that I didn't get this when I was a child, so I expect a lot from you. You can't do that. It is not
Right.
right. It's not healthy.
True.
Yeah.
I realize that a lot of, now that, I told you that whatever happened in the childhood, I realized it very, very late, and
Hmm.
why my behavior to certain things are that way. I have come to a realization, and maybe I did get a lot of clarity than what I was before, that,
Hmm.
why there are so many things that, come into picture of what actually happened back then when we were into the school, or when we were, not that mature enough to understand everything. So
Hmm.
before we conclude this episode, I want you to give certain maybe things that, we did discuss. How can people realize that, this is something that has happened in their past, but
Hmm.
maybe once the realization is done, how can they process? Because I realize, I believe, or I have seen, I don't believe this, sorry, wrong choice of words, but I have realized, or I've seen a lot of people, they don't know how to process their own emotions. They don't know how to channelize their emotions, and, how to come, because until and unless it is not processed, you will never be able to accept the reality of what has happened.
Yes, true. So that's why we always, as mental health professionals, we recommend our clients or anyone we meet to start journaling,
Right.
right? Everything will make sense only when you write it down, not just recording or texting. No, never. The pen has so much of power, lot more power
Right.
and then texting. So the more you write down, see, there's a pattern. No, that this journaling is not just about, I got up at this time, I drank coffee, went this. That is also journaling. But the important part of journaling is that recording your thoughts, recording your thoughts, recording your behaviors. And when you record these two, you will read your journal. And the main aspect, or the main core of recording or journaling is to understand your core character, and understand what is exactly that has been disturbing you, and how I have actually reacted to it, and how can I alter it.
Right.
Okay, this is one way of channelizing your emotions, negative or positive emotions, whatever you can name it as, emotions or thoughts, basically.
Right.
Right? So journaling is one way to channelize your emotions that or thoughts you're struggling with. So it doesn't have to be in a proper grammar, proper English. No, it is just your communicating with the diary. It is
Right.
purely communication with the diary. So the more you write down your disturbing thoughts, right? And the more you write down the disturbing thoughts and how you actually dealt with it in the past, only then you can alter them in the present.
Right.
So this actually helps a lot more than practicing meditation, practicing mindfulness breathing. More than that, if it is accompanied, you do mindful meditation and also do journaling, the effect is of course more.
Yeah.
So get into a nice peaceful corner of your space. It doesn't have to be a very luxurious corner. No, some comfort space in your home or workplace or wherever you feel comfortable. Sit down. You process it by writing down your thoughts.
Right.
Right? See, you don't have to be. You have to think about it, or maybe something strikes you at that moment. Don't pressure you on your put a extra pressure on yourself that I have to write today. I have to make a note of a thought. No, it will go with the flow.
Right.
The more you pressurize it, the more you put the pressure on, nothing will come out.
Right.
That's that's the human tendency, right? The more we try to work out something, think about something, it will not work out.
Right.
Right?
That happened.
Leave it. Just leave it. Okay, I will try to record my thought today, and you try it. Process it by recording your thoughts. Maybe
Right.
childhood, maybe teenage, maybe now, however you want to take it. But record your thoughts. alter it by recording your behavior and actions, that how you dealt with it in the past and how you can change it now.
Right.
This should be a daily practice, actually. It should be a daily routine.
Yeah, and I believe journaling helps you vent out whatever your thoughts are, irrespective of negative, positive, and
Yeah.
there will never be a fear of judgment of what will somebody say or XYZ person say. And when you actually vent out how you feel, and what you did and what you did, maybe that's when, when you read it out, you come to a realization. It feels like you're reading somebody else's story at that
Ex-
point of time when you're reading it.
Exactly.
And maybe that time you judge that other person because subconsciously you know it is your story, but actively you don't realize it back then. Like you just try to understand what has happened. And then
Yeah.
maybe you think with a different perspective of what you would have done if this and
Uh,
this situation was there.
Perfectly said. As long as you don't judge yourself, is more
Yeah.
than. See, and
And
we say that we should not be judgmental. We should not judge anyone. But honestly, Ankush, then see, everyone are human beings. Okay, everyone tend to judge. You,
yeah,
me, everyone. Somewhere around the corner, we somehow subconsciously at least will judge.
yes.
But it's okay. Just the person, okay. But don't talk out loud or think it out loud. That is more than
Yeah.
enough.
That's why we named it non-judgmental, for at least, anybody who's on the podcast, maybe for 30 minutes or hour or 40 minutes or whatever the time period they are here. I always wanted a place for anybody and everybody whosoever comes down to have a space that is free for judgment, at least for that 30, 40 minutes, because I do subconsciously judge people, but I don't make sure, nor I convey it with my facial expressions nor with my words. I make sure whatever I did see was right or wrong, or I didn't like it, or yeah. So I just make sure I'm calm enough and I don't hurt the other person's emotions that is related. So I'm just calm because eventually once you step out of this 30 minutes or 40 minutes of the room, I cannot guarantee if you will be judged for what happened or whatnot, because not everybody will be polite towards, whatever has happened. Maybe because I never liked when people judged me for anything. And the worst, this is one example that happened. There was a family that had come down to my home to see me, what kind of a guy I am. And I just realized the entire family goes from head to toe, toe to head for literally 30 minutes. Yeah. And that was getting on my nerves. I'm
Definitely.
like, you, I mean, I'm not a statue, guys. You cannot, how can you stare somebody from top to bottom, bottom to top on a continuous
Especially
not
about
yeah, eventually I did. I was getting very annoyed at that point of time. And I
like
have to be, yeah, and I have to be more sanskari. I can't go like, oh, stop staring. I have to be like, okay, I have to be more polite towards them. Yeah, that did happen. And I can never fight. I did take it very casually of what just happened. Maybe, thinking from their perspective, because they would, give their girl to me, somebody who has been into their family. So they do want to check out the guy they are giving it to, but not at a cost of, making it so awkward for
yes,
everybody out there.
exactly. So that's how people are. Most of us,
Yeah.
like most people out there, it's purely because of ignorance. Maybe they would think that the thinking, they're actually thinking within their head, and no, they're actually love.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
That's
why
what.
I said, right? Even if I judge or even if I do something, I make sure I don't have a facial expression for it, nor do I have a voice for it. I make sure it is within me so that I don't make it awkward for the person around me.
That's all it takes, no? But that itself comes a lot of practice and effort.
Yeah.
Come just one day. See, just one rule, yeah. Like, as
Hmm.
long as our actions, our words doesn't affect, the people around us, as long as we are harmless, that's more than enough. Don't expect the opposite person to be harmless.
Right.
Don't be harmless. You would do the best from your part without no expectations.
Right.
That's more.
Maybe that would help, the individual to have, I won't say a very smooth life, not a buttery life, but
Mm.
you might have a softer speed breakers rather than having the harder one.
Yes. It is just to be a little easier for you to take the hard route. You will know how to handle
My
it.
brain has gone back to the examples. So, but anyway, thank you, Joe, for being here. It was wonderful having you here, and what an insight that you have given for everybody of us to realize that, how can one, whatever happened in childhood. Thank you so much, Joe, for being here, and great. It was great talking to you about, how childhood actually makes a difference in the adulthood or the life that we go ahead. So I hope it is helpful for all of us to realize and process things. Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe, for being here. It was
It
great talking to you.
my pleasure as well. It was able to, you gave me the space to talk also. Like you helped me with your examples for me to, give more insightful, information. I hope it's insightful actually. I have my own private practice in Chennai, Velachery, the name of Sign Nutrition Private Limited. So I do see patients, clients in person. And also I have worked with schools, colleges, and IT sectors.